Jiang Chen, a genius disciple of the Taixu Sword Sect, practiced the forbidden scripture, all heaven sword technique, in seclusion in order to break through the barrier between heaven and man. He didn't want to fall from grace. The bullshit is that he has been reborn. What's even more ridiculous is that he was reborn as a little white tiger. What's even more ridiculous is that he is actually a summoning beast. From then on, a fierce sword tiger emerged from the sky. Bookworm Penguin Group 856797701, verification issue, Little White Tiger, 5910833342, can be added, keywords of the novel. I have become the summoning beast of the Empress without a pop-up window. I have become the summoning beast of the Empress. Complete download of TXT, I have become the summoning beast of the Empress. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Disciples of Taixu Sword Sect transform into Little White Tiger. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Disciples of Taixu Sword Sect transform into Little White Tiger, Zhozhou Fengyun Lu * Jiang Chen chapter. Jiang Chen, originally from Yuzhou, was brought back to the Sword Sect by the third elder of the Taixu Sword Sect, Mu Shutian, at the age of 9 and was accepted as a closed-door disciple. After 50 years of cultivation in the Sword Sect, Jiang Chen left the Taixu Sword Sect and went down the mountain to hone his skills. From then on, a sort of cold light shines across the 9 provinces, and the Tian Shan Sword Immortal does not descend to the mortal world. At that time, there was a water disaster in Jiangzhou, with thousands of miles of water. In fact, it was an evil dragon that stirred up trouble. Jiang Chen adhered to the purpose of the Taixu Sword Sect to slay demons and eliminate demons, and crossed 9,000 miles overnight. At dawn, he beheaded the dragon's head, and the water disaster immediately subsided. In another month, Jiang Chenbu unleashed 1,000 sword energies in the void, using his shocking sword technique to eliminate countless evil sects that had killed countless people. In the following years, the Black Mountain Old Demon, the Weak Water Poison Python, the Xiangshigu Buddha, the Nanhai Holy Lotus Mother. One demon after another, which had been rampant for almost 1,000 years, collapsed under Jiang Chen's sword. In the next 100 years, demons and monsters dare not dance, and evil spirits and people are nowhere to be found. After dispelling the evil energy of the 9 provinces, Jiang Chen returned to the Taixu Sword Sect, stating that his cultivation had reached the extreme level. In order to break through, he fled to the Death Pass. From then on, there was no news of Jiang Chen in the world. One day, 10,000 swords of the Taixu Sword Sect ascended into the sky, their swords sounding mournful. 100,000 disciples of the Sword Sect, dressed in plain clothes, knelt down and worshipped heaven and earth. The next day, Kyushu shook, only because Jiang Chen, who had suppressed Kyushu for almost 300 years, could not cross a step between heaven and man, and his body died. Talented people from different dynasties emerged, each leading the way for hundreds of years. I don't know who the next Jiang Chen will be. My thoughts are like chaos, I don't know where I am. After an unknown amount of time, Jiang Chen suddenly heard this passage in his ear. Void creatures, listen to my voice. Under the witness of Huang Tian's will, I have signed a summoning agreement with you, and from then on, we will be connected. Descend. At the moment when the words fell, Jiang Chen felt an unimaginable force of entanglement coming from somewhere and forcibly sucking him away. After a long time, he finally felt the existence of his body once again. Jiang Chen eagerly opened his eyes, and at the entrance, a handsome short-haired woman stared at him with a hopeful yet fearful gaze. Mississippi. Jiang Chen's heart twitched as he wanted to ask, but a milky growl startled him. What kind of person is Jiang Chen? A sword sect demon who has suppressed Kyushu for almost 300 years. Not to mention the roar of an unborn young tiger, even the roar of the legendary tiger demon cannot make him lose his composure like this. The reason why he was in a state of great despair was because that milky cry was actually coming from his mouth. At this moment, Jiang Chen finally realized the difference in his body. He lowered his head and saw a pair of furry little claws. He lifted his small paw on the right in a daze, and then his 5-inch long claws spread out later. He slapped his face with his little paw. Sure enough, that's not a face. Even though Jiang Chen has gone through many experiences and is mentally mature, he still couldn't help feeling a little anxious in the face of this situation. At this moment, he felt as if he had been easily lifted up and walked towards a mirror not far away that couldn't show a human figure, and finally placed him in front of the mirror. What is this thing? Jiang Chen originally wanted to take a picture of his current posture, but who knew that this mirror could not capture the image, and a milky moan occurred again. After a short moment, an inexplicable light shone out of the mirror, and the light landed on Jiang Chen's small body, warm. Soon, the light disappeared, and a line of text that Jiang Chen couldn't understand began to appear on the mirror. Qin Ziyue's fourth summoning monster. Little White Tiger, potential, first rank. Little White Tiger, am I? Jiang Chen has come to understand something. Not far away, Qin Ziyue slowly lowered her head upon hearing the answer and walked down the summoning platform step by step like a puppet. She sighed in her heart and finally accepted her fate. The other members of the royal family silently watched Qin Ziyue slowly leave, shaking their heads and sighing. As members of the imperial family, they also felt regretful for Qin Ziyue, as she practiced so hard but did not receive the corresponding rewards. The Eastern Wilderness Continent is a divine world with numerous schools of practice, dynasty, divine kingdom, imperial territory, holy land, ancient tribes. Countless forces stand tall on this vast and boundless land. In some dynasties, the art of body refining was popular, and the people were fierce. The whole country was full of body refining enthusiasts, who built mountains and rivers with great power. There are also sacred places that can understand the mantras of heaven and earth, communicate with heaven and earth, move mountains, gather the moon, subdue demons, seal towns, do everything, and have unpredictable divine power. Moreover, ancient aristocratic families have hidden divine methods that are extremely powerful. The most prosperous way of cultivation in the Xianyu kingdom where Qin Ziyue is located is to summon a path. Summoning creatures from other worlds, summoning ancient strong demons, and summoning mysterious creatures through these summoning masters can summon wind and rain, move mountains and moon, and achieve their own growth. Qin Ziyue, the 9th princess of Xianyu kingdom, holds the reputation of being the most beautiful woman in Xianyu kingdom. The name Qin Ziyue is not only well known to everyone in Xuanyue's country, but even many dynasties abroad have heard of her name. As a direct member of the imperial family in the Xianyu kingdom, she should be a model for domestic summoners, but she did not achieve this. The essence of summoning beasts is also demon beasts. Qin Ziyue summoned a small black snake for the first time, but judging the opponent's potential from the root bone was not good. As a member of the royal family, Qin Ziyue naturally has a chance to be summoned again. The second time, she summoned a little yellow dog, but its potential was still lacking. The third time, she summoned an ordinary chick, and it remained so. This is her 4th summoning ceremony. Qin Ziyue knew this was her last chance. Last night, her father ordered someone to bring her a sentence. If she cannot become the spiritual power of the imperial family, then she should marry the East China Sea country and contribute her last strength to the country. Obviously, this 4th summon did not change her fate either. Oh, poor Princess 9 is probably going to be intermarried to the East China Sea. Being in the imperial family, we don't have any freedom. This is the last thing she can do for us, the Qin family. Amidst the complex gaze of numerous royal compatriots, Qin Ziyue left with a gloomy expression. The naive Jiang Chen watched Qin Ziyue's receding figure and immediately chased after her, because in this unfamiliar place, only she gave herself an indescribable sense of closeness. Miss, wait for Jiang. Of course, Jiang Chen's words turned into a growl. Perhaps due to some discomfort with the animal's body, Jiang Chen, who was running, fell under his feet and rolled down the steps. This scene fell in the eyes of everyone, although they knew it couldn't be underestimated at this moment, they couldn't help it. "Huh, this little thing is quite cute." Jiang Chen, who fell and ate shit, quickly got up and continued to chase Qin Ziyue. Until now, he is still confused and unsure of what exactly happened. In another distant time and space, everyone in the Kyushu cultivation world would never have imagined that Jiang Chen, the genius disciple of the Taixu Sword Sect who had died in their eyes, was now reborn as a little white tiger, and also someone else's summoning beast. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Ow ow. I don't agree. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Ow ow. I don't agree. In the magnificent palace, Jiang Chen, who had transformed into a little milk tiger, followed Qin Ziyue step by step. Qin Ziyue hung her head and walked forward step by step, emitting a sense of despair. Her movements were stiff and powerless, as if she had lost her soul as a walking corpse. Qin Ziyue, that's all. The problem is that the little guy at her feet also looks lifeless, with a tiger head hanging down, wanting to cry without tears. However, Jiang Chen's silly and adorable appearance, which was more sorrowful than death, not only did not attract sympathy from others, but also made people in the past unable to help but laugh out loud. I am a genius disciple of the Taixu Sword Sect in Jiangchen Hall, who has been suppressing Jojo for hundreds of years, but now I have turned into a little white tiger. It's ridiculous, really ridiculous. It's strange to say, didn't I explode and die because of practicing the all-heaven sword technique? How could I be reborn as a little white tiger? Moreover, the atmosphere of this world is different from that of Kyushu, and I think it's also an exotic space. At the time of Kyushu, Jiang Chen had reached his peak. In order to further break through the shackles of heaven and humanity and enter the legendary realm of earthly immortals, he fled to the Dead Gate and practiced the supreme sword scripture of the Taixu Sword Sect, which has been passed down from generation to generation, but no one has practiced it. The all-heaven sword technique. This sword technique contains supreme divine power, but the risk of cultivation is extremely high. Jiang Chen died due to his seclusion and comprehension of this sword technique. Ziyue Palace. The vast palace is lonely and silent. Due to Qin Ziyue's tranquility, there were very few servants waiting in the palace, and at night she was even more alone. The maidservants were accustomed to Qin Ziyue's rules and would leave one after another at night, giving her a silent world. Not long after, Qin Ziyue, who was lost, returned to her palace and shuttled through the winding corridors. She stopped in front of a pool, turned around wooden, and stared at herself in the water. After calming down for a moment, she suddenly jumped into the pool, using cold water to ease her restless heart. Looking at herself in the water, Qin Ziyue fiercely pounded the surface with her fists, and many demons invaded. What's the difference between Qin Ziyue and me? My mental abilities don't need to be inferior to others. Why is it that I can't summon strong demons? I admit to never slacking off in my cultivation, but... oh my god, why is this? Beside the pond, Jiang Chen looked at Qin Ziyue questioning the heavens, seeming to resonate. He stared at the small figure in the water and also followed suit with a whimper. However, he is much more intense than Qin Ziyue. Oh my god, why is this? Ao, I want Jiang Chen to slay demons and eliminate them all his life, and on the side of Fuse, I ended up with this beast's body. Ao, what's the difference between this and the reincarnation path? Ow, you really don't have long eyes. Oh my, do you still have a sore throat? This made Jiang Chen even more depressed, and he couldn't help but cry a few more times. Ow, oh, it's still a poorly developed little animal. Exhausted from shouting, Jiang Chen lowered his small head and sighed, feeling physically and mentally exhausted. As the saying goes, if you come, take it easy. It's useless to blame others. I should think about how to solve the current situation. After venting his frustration, Jiang Chen also began to think about his future path. Jiang Chen, just be content, just be a beast. At least I haven't completely forgotten the past like in reincarnation. In this way, I may have a great chance of transforming into a person. Yes, transforming is my only way. Thinking of transformation, Jiang Chen fell into deep doubts. I don't know if I can cultivate the swordsmanship of the Taixu Sword Sect with this beast body. If not, I know some of the demon clan's martial arts. At the time of Kyushu, Jiang Chen had a wide range of adventures and had many experiences. During the process of slaying demons and eliminating them, he also visited many secret places, among which were some places where the ancestors of the demon clan inherited their teachings. Naturally, he became aware of some demon clan techniques. Of course, as a disciple of the Taixu Sword Sect, Jiang Chen has a special fondness for our sect's Taixu Sword Classic. If this beast body can cultivate the Sword Classic, it will naturally be his first choice. Thinking of this, Jiang Chen immediately began an experiment to see if this beast body could cultivate the Taixu Sword Classic. When he was running the sword introduction chapter in the Taixu Sword Classic, the familiar feeling made him ecstatic, and he once again let out 2 moans despite his painful voice. Great, there are signs of arousal. It seems that even a beast can cultivate the Taixu Sword Classic. Jiang Chen immediately stopped using the sword section. He was just testing it. Before practicing the Taixu Sword Classic, disciples of the Taixu Sword Sect first needed to shape their gods in solid form. However, due to the overwhelming sword energy, their fragile bodies were unable to withstand it. If the Taixu Sword Classic can be practiced, it means that I can also practice the Zhutian sword technique again. That's right, Jiang Chen died because he practiced the all-heaven sword technique, but as the saying goes, failure is the mother of success. After experiencing a death, Jiang Chen realized the key to practicing the all-heaven sword technique. If he were to retake it, he felt that he wouldn't explode and die like he did last time. The divine power of the sword technique of all heavens is unpredictable, which has overturned my understanding of sword cultivation. If I can cultivate it, I will definitely break through the shackles of heaven and humanity, break through the void, and enter the legendary supreme immortal realm. Thinking of this, Jiang Chen suddenly felt that being able to be reborn after exploding and dying was definitely a blessing, even if it was to be reborn as a little tiger. Jiang Chen sorted out his emotions and regained his fighting spirit, but Qin Ziyue still had a sorrowful expression, unwilling to pound the water surface. Halfway through, perhaps tired, Qin Ziyue fell backwards and sank herself completely under the cold water. Under the murky water, my mother, who had been dead for many years, slowly emerged. Qin Ziyue was exhausted and wanted to touch her mother's voice and appearance, only to receive ripples. She cried and said, "Mother, I'm so tired, so tired, so tired." She just closed her eyes and let herself sink continuously. Suddenly, a strong palm plunged into the water and dragged Qin Ziyue out. "Jiu Mei, are you trying to take it seriously?" End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Sword Explanation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 Sword Explanation. Qin Ziyue opened her eyes and saw 2 annoying faces. One is the 6th Prince Qinzhuo. One is a famous playboy in the imperial city, Yuan Chenghuan, the only son of General Yuan. The strong aroma of alcohol rushed towards Qin Ziyue, making her realize that it was Jiang Chen. Bazabazazui, who was standing by the water pool, secretly thought that his cultivation had completely lost, to the point where someone had walked up to him without realizing it. In the past, he could clearly control all the movements within 10 miles. Qin Ziyue, who was rudely pulled back to the shore, instinctively slapped Qin Zhuo's hand and took a few steps back. In front of others, Qin Ziyue's face turned cold and indifferent again, refusing to let others know. She asked, "Brother Lu, you guys are drunk. Let's leave quickly. Jiumei, do you like to come to you as a brother? Isn't it because Cheng Huan never forgets you? Thinking that you will soon set off to marry the East China Sea country, I am really reluctant to part with you." The strong smell of alcohol rushing towards Qin Ziyue furrowed her brows and said, "This is the imperial palace, not the place where you act wild after drinking. Leave quickly." Drunk Yuan Chenghuan looked at Qin Ziyue, who was now wet, with an undisguised desire in her eyes. He wouldn't dare to be so bold in his usual life, as he was overwhelmed by the alcohol. "Ziyue, Ziyue." Yuan Chenghuan swayed and embraced the other person with the strength of the wine. Fortunately, Qin Ziyue reacted quickly and quickly dodged. This scene made Jiang Chen's little eyebrows furrow. A shameless person. To curse back and forth, just with Jiang Chen's current appearance as a little milk tiger, it was impossible to stop their evil behavior. He instinctively moaned a few words. Sure enough, those two guys didn't even glance at him and didn't care about this little thing that could be trampled to death with just one foot. Seeing Yuan Chenghuan embrace her again, Qin Ziyue's face turned ugly. She launched a counterattack at the first moment, directly stimulating her years of tempered spiritual and mental strength. When a faint white light flickered between her eyebrows, an invisible force was generated out of thin air, pushing Yuan Chenghuan away. Puff! Yuan Chenghuan fell into a nearby pool, but the cold water not only did not awaken his thoughts, but also added fuel to the fire, making him even more excited. "Ziyue, you are about to marry into the East China Sea country, and from now on, we will be separated forever. Please be merciful and satisfy my pain of longing. Chenghuan, you're drunk, don't cause trouble for yourself." Qin Ziyue used her psychic power again to push it aside. "Ziyue, why are you so heartless to me, three-tailed python leopard?" A gap suddenly opened in the void, and then a strange beast leaped out. It looks like a black panther, is as big as a wild ox, and the most amazing thing is its tail, with 3 live python heads. Jiang Chen was greatly surprised and secretly thought that the magic of this world was also unique, as it could summon monsters out of thin air. Wait, in that case, I was also summoned like this. It's a summoning beast. Jiang Chen's face turned black in an instant. Without Yuan Chenghuan speaking, the 3-tailed python leopard leaped several meters and rushed behind Qin Ziyue. The 3 pythons at its tail were extremely agile, like ropes, binding the latter's limbs and unable to move. Qin Ziyue attacked this python leopard with spiritual power, but its body was too strong, and with its relatively weak spiritual power, it could not cause any harm to it. Drunk Yuan Chenghuan walked up to the struggling Qin Ziyue. "Yuan Chenghuan, I am the princess's sovereign. How dare you treat me like this?" At this moment, Yuan Chenghuan was clearly overwhelmed by the alcohol, completely ignoring everything else. His heart was filled with Qin Ziyue and nothing else. "Ziyue, Ziyue, do you know how many days and nights I've thought of you? Please show mercy and fulfill me." At this moment, Jiang Chen seemed to feel the despair in Qin Ziyue's heart, and that sense of powerlessness made him extremely angry. What to do? What to do? Is there any way to stop everything in front of me? In the next moment, a glimmer of light flashed through Jiang Chen's 2 round grape-like eyes. Got it, the secret sword solution. Sword explanation. One of the few extremely fierce secret techniques of the Taixu Sword Sect, which gains powerful power in a short period of time at the cost of burning lifespan. This technique is even more outstanding with the coordination of its own life sword tools. The cost of Jianjie is high, but at this moment, Jiang Chen has no other choice. Not far away, just as Yuan Qinghuan's claws were about to extend towards Qin Ziyue again, a still immature but slightly more ferocious tiger roar exploded over the Ziyue palace. At the moment of hearing the sound, Qin Ziyue opened her eyes. At the entrance, the little milk tiger summoned by oneself was lying on all fours, grinning at Yuan Qinghuan, Qin Zhua, and even the python and leopard. Surprisingly, there was a blood-colored unreal flame burning on his body surface, which was quite mysterious. The longer it takes for the sword to be unleashed, the more lifespan it consumes. Therefore, Jiang Chen didn't want to wait at all and rushed out immediately. In an instant, a red lightning bolt pierced through the sky. Yuan Qinghuan and Qin Zhua, who were overjoyed by alcohol, reacted slower and stared blankly at the small white tiger rushing towards them. Only the python leopard summoned by Yuan Qinghuan responded. As the summoning beast of Yuan Qinghuan, when it realized that the other party might be in danger, the python leopard made a decisive decision and released Qin Ziyue to face Jiang Chen. At this moment, Yuan Qinghuan and Qin Zhua widened their eyes and looked at a tiger and a leopard constantly approaching in mid-air, and couldn't help but laugh out loud. There's no way, the overwhelming visual impact is really too strong tonight. The two of them had the courage to sneak into the Ziyue palace and do such things to Qin Ziyue. They naturally knew that she had summoned another little thing with a yellow rank. In the eyes of the two, although this little white tiger was a bit strange at the moment, it was definitely not a match for the python leopard. In mid-air, facing the ferocious python and leopard rushing towards us, its fur was clearly visible, its sharp teeth were like blades, and it captured the soul. However, Jiang Chen had no sensation at all. His eyes were sharp and bright, and a powerful confidence that emanated from within made his momentum climb step by step. Blessed to the soul, the sword moves that have long been integrated into Jiang Chen's soul are revealed on the small tiger claws. Ow! At that moment, Qin Ziyue was stunned, Yuan Qinghuan was stunned, and Qin Zhua was also stunned. In a daze, the three of them seemed to see a master swordsman standing in front of them. In front of Jiang Chen's tiger paw, the burning blood flames turned into a miniature sword shadow, piercing towards the oncoming python and leopard. A terrifying killing intent enveloped the heart of the python and leopard. It wanted to dodge in fear. Unfortunately, it's too late. In mid-air, the little white tiger and the python leopard intertwined and passed by. At first, Yuan Qinghuan's smile froze, and then, as if he had been hit hard, he hugged his head and screamed out in agony. "Qinghuan, what's wrong with you?" Qin Zhua was startled by Yuan Qinghuan, and when he looked again, he saw that his 7 holes were bleeding, looking miserable. Backfire. Qin Zhua realized something and turned his head to look at the python leopard. After landing, it shook a few times before falling to the ground with a loud crash. In its chest, a fist-sized blood hole pierced through its body. This. How could it be? End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Just change your posture. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Just change your posture. The strongest point is often also where the enemy is defeated. In the summoning genre, the exotic beasts summoned by summoners are their most powerful means, and at the same time, these exotic beasts have become their key points. Under the witness of heaven and earth, the summoner and the exotic beasts signed a mysterious contract that has been passed down in ancient times, and their relationship is extraordinary. Summoners summon monster beasts through a spiritual contract, so once the summoned beast dies, its spirit will be severely damaged. Mild cases include bleeding from 7 holes, disorientation, dullness, and even death. For summoning monsters, once the summoner dies, the consequences are even more severe. Obviously, at this moment, Yuan Qinghuan has suffered a heavy mental blow due to the death of the python and leopard, which is why her 7 holes are bleeding and suffering greatly. Jiumei, you're really ruthless. You've injured Qinghuan so badly, General Yuan will definitely not let you go. After saying these words, Qin Zhua quickly took Yuan Qinghuan away and found someone to treat him as soon as possible. In fact, Qin Zhua's words are of no use at all. Even if Qin Ziyue is no longer favored, she is still a member of the royal family of the Xianyue kingdom, a pure ninth princess. Yu Qinzhua and Yuan Qinghuan sneaked into the Ziyue palace late at night and did such dirty things to her. It's really bold. Of course, only a few people are aware of this matter, so the emperor may turn the big picture into a small one for the sake of General Yuan's face. The two also concluded that Qin Yuezi dared not speak up, which is why she dared to be so reckless. Once the situation escalates and becomes well-known, even if it is just to maintain the dignity of the royal family, the emperor will definitely take action to severely punish Yuan Qinghuan and Qin Zhua. So, whenever Qin Zhua calms down a bit, he dare not speak up about what happened tonight. Even Yuan Qinghuan, who stole chickens but couldn't eat rice, could only swallow the bitter water back into his stomach honestly. The words are divided into two parts. Qin Ziyue didn't have time to pay attention to the two who were leaving, and her thoughts were all focused on little white tiger. Jiang Chen, who had used his sword-solving technique, fell into weakness and lay limp on the ground. If it weren't for his soft lower abdomen slightly undulating, Qin Ziyue would have thought it was dead. Qin Ziyue carefully picked it up and gently stroked his small head. In a moment of despair, little white tiger's reckless appearance moved her. Seeing him with a listless expression and weak breath, she couldn't help but feel heartbroken. "Xiao Bai, it's okay. I'll take you to the veterinary clinic right away." Feeling weak, Jiang Chen heard the word "Xiao Bai" and couldn't help but let out a low growl to express his protest. "I am a genius disciple of the Taixu Sword Sect, a handsome hero who has suppressed demons in the 9 provinces for 300 years. Xiao Bai." Ah. Qin Ziyue was worried about the little white tiger and didn't care about the current time. She held it in her arms and quickly rushed to the veterinary clinic. A gust of night breeze blew, causing Qin Ziyue to shiver uncontrollably. The night breeze is quite cool. Qin Ziyue looked down at the poor little guy, rubbed his little head again, and then instinctively pressed it into her arms to prevent him from being attacked by the cold wind. Immediately, Xiaohutu fell into a white ditch and had difficulty breathing. "Miss, please take care of yourself." He wanted to struggle, but at this moment, he was too weak to exert any strength, and even his voice was blocked. The Xianyue royal family cultivates the method of summoning demon beasts for their own use. The battle between monsters and beasts inevitably leads to injuries, and this veterinary workshop was established to solve this problem. Not long after, Qin Ziyue arrived at the veterinary workshop. Although Qin Ziyue gradually lost her imperial favor due to her qualifications, she is still the 9th princess. Even though it is midnight at this moment, the people in the veterinary workshop dare not neglect her. Soon, a physician over 50 years old arrived. "Doctor, could you please show me this summoning beast?" Qin Ziyue placed the little white tiger with 4 feet facing up and 2 eyes turning white on the small soft collapse, frowning and secretly saying that his condition looked even worse than before, as if he had fainted. The old doctor immediately lifted his right hand and saw a gentle white light shining from his fingertips. Then, 5 thin strands of light floated out and sank into Jiang Chen's body. A little later, the old physician withdrew the light thread and said to Qin Ziyue, "Princess Jiu, your summoned beast has suffered a severe loss of qi and blood. I have also seen this situation before. It should be a secret technique that has used a short-term surge of power. Just calm down and recuperate for a period of time." Upon hearing this, Qin Ziyue took a long breath of turbid air. Thinking about the previous situation, it basically matches what the old doctor said. If it weren't for that, with his small appearance, how could he have killed the python and leopard? How could a small demon beast of the 1st grade of Huangjia use a secret technique? Qin Ziyue had doubts in her heart, feeling that the little white tiger she summoned this time seemed quite extraordinary. "Princess Jiu, this is the essence and blood pill, specifically used to supplement the deficiency of demon beasts' qi and blood loss. Please keep it well. If it's not enough, let me speak up before the servant, and I will open some more. Qin Ziyue nodded and took the essence and blood pill, saying, thank you very much, doctor. Princess Jiu, there is a saying that I don't know whether to say it or not, the old physician suddenly said. Qin Ziyue said, but it doesn't matter. Well, if there is any offense, please don't take it seriously. Just now, when I was exploring the body of your monster, I found that its bones were strange, its eyes were clear and divine, and it seemed to contain spiritual beauty. It is actually unique. I know that his potential in front of the demon mirror is not good, but everything is not something that can be determined in a single word or seen in a whole thing. I hope Princess Jiu won't give up this beast easily. Upon hearing these words, Qin Ziyue couldn't help but ask, doctor's words, is Xiaobai not a useless beast with mediocre potential? The old doctor smiled and said, I didn't come to this conclusion. It's just that I spent my whole life with beasts and have seen countless demon beasts. Few demon beasts have such clear eyes when they were young. Well, I understand. Thank you for the doctor's advice. It's late at night, so I'll go back to the palace first. Old physician. Princess Jiu, take your time. After speaking, Qin Ziyue picked up the little white tiger again. Jiang Chen, who had just been able to catch his breath, once again saw the approaching land of great danger, and let out a soft growl. The childish voice made Qin Ziyue happy, but she didn't stop her hand movements, doting on it and pressing it into her chest. Qin Ziyue was unaware of the meaning of the demon beast, but the old physician behind him seemed to have heard some clues from Jiang Chen's howling voice. His turbid gaze swept over Qin Ziyue's proud chest and he smiled bitterly, Ninth Princess, stay. Qin Ziyue, who heard the sound, turned around in confusion and said, Doctor, what else is there? The old doctor thought for a moment and said, I forgot to tell you, your little white tiger has some difficulty breathing. Breath obstruction. Qin Ziyue was a bit puzzled, but instinctively hugged the little thing in her arms tighter, feeling extremely heartbroken. Now Jiang Chen felt suffocated again, his eyes turning white. Doctor, how do you recuperate for poor breath? This fell into the eyes of the old physician, who envied the little beast and once again tactfully said, it's simple, just need Princess Jiu to change her posture. Breath obstruction. Qin Ziyue blinked her eyes and lowered her head to look at her small head in the deep groove. Two red clouds suddenly floated up her cheeks. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. The little thing summoned by Princess 9 unexpectedly. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. The little thing summoned by Princess 9 unexpectedly. When the moonlight was full, Qin Ziyue carried Jiang Chen back to Ziyue Palace. Qin Ziyue sat on the stone steps in front of the palace holding him, took out an essence and blood pill, and leaned towards Jiang Chen's mouth. Xiao Bai, take it. The doctor said, this thing will help with your recovery. Jiang Chen sniffed the blood essence pill on his mouth, and the strong smell of blood made him unable to resist turning his head away, unwilling to swallow this blood pill without any technical content. Jiang Chen is a disciple of the Taixu Sword Sect, proficient in swordsmanship but not very familiar with alchemy. But as the old saying goes, haven't you ever eaten pork or seen a pig run? Jiang Chen, as a genius disciple of the Taixu Sword Sect, naturally spared no effort in cultivating him. During his hundreds of years of growth, he was specially equipped with a skilled alchemist to refine various precious spiritual medicines for him. Jiang Chen, who had taken so many precious pills, immediately recognized that the so-called essence and blood pill in front of him was a simple refining technique that forcibly refined the essence and blood of certain demon beasts, which was also the reason why it had a strong residual bloody smell. As a human, his memory made him instinctively resist this kind of drinking blood and devouring meat, beast life, and naturally he didn't want to eat this essence and blood pill. Xiao Bai, why don't you eat it? Qin Ziyue felt a bit embarrassed when she saw the little white tiger in her arms behaving like this. At this moment, Qin Ziyue thought of the scene of some servants in the palace taking care of the children of the concubines, and had a plan in her mind. She slowly leaned the essence and blood pill towards her mouth, glanced at the other person, and whispered, "Xiao Bai, if you don't eat it, I'll eat it." After eating it, it's gone. Children are the most reluctant to see their own things being possessed by others. Qin Ziyue thought of this move because she saw that the appearance of little white tiger was similar to that of a child. But how could she possibly imagine that the little white tiger in front of her was the soul of an adult? Seeing her demeanor, Jiang Chen couldn't help but roll his eyes. Qin Ziyue was stunned by her vivid disdainful expression, and suddenly felt so foolish she recalled the words of the old doctor before, and also thought of the three little things she had summoned before, feeling that the little white tiger in front of her was indeed very different from them. Some things cannot be kept hidden at all. At night, an old slave hurriedly walked into a grand palace called Dragon Moon Palace, which was the current lord of the Xianyue kingdom and the palace of Qin Mingjing. The dragon, covered by a light veil, collapsed and a figure slowly sat up. "What's going on in the middle of the night?" "Report to the Lord, an hour ago, the sixth prince and Yuan Chenghuan, the only son of General Yuan, sneaked into Princess Jiu's palace with the intention of committing any misconduct against her." As soon as he said this, the man on dragon collapse immediately snorted coldly, "Qin Zhua and Yuan Chenghuan are too bold, right? Well, according to your tone, things haven't gone to the worst. The Lord is wise." After naturally patting a horse, the old slave continued, "Unexpectedly, the little white tiger summoned by Princess Nine erupted at a critical moment today and instantly killed the python and leopard that Yuan Chenghuan had been raising for 3 years. The veil was lifted, and Qin Mingjing got up and looked down at the old slave in front of him, half believing and half doubting, saying, "Huang Jie's first-grade little thing instantly killed Yuan Chenghuan's python leopard. Are you sure this news is true?" Old slave. "At first, I didn't believe it either. After confirming a few times, I had to believe it." Qin Mingjing took a few steps back and forth, looked up at the old slave, and said, "The judgment under the demon mirror should be good. Although the strength of potential is enough to judge the future of a summoning beast, nothing has happened before. So, these days, you will secretly observe that little white tiger and see if it is truly an example of nothing in a million." "Yes, Lord." After the old slave left, Qin Mingjing walked out of the palace and looked at the bright moon in the sky, sighing softly, "The spirit lord of Jinghua is gradually weakening. When can we find a giant demon that can replace him? The sky is slightly bright." In the room, Qin Ziyue shook her head helplessly and walked towards the bed. Not far away, little white tiger curled up on a small soft bed, with essence and blood pills and some bloody essence meat slices in front of her. For these things, little white tiger doesn't even look at them, which is why Qin Ziyue is helpless. Qin Ziyue, who had been circling all night, was already exhausted and had no choice but to go rest first. Not long after, Jiang Chen, curled up on the small soft bed, lifted his little head and realized that Qin Ziyue was already asleep. Then, he got up and bit a plate of lean meat slices before slipping out of the room. It is false to say that Jiang Daochen is not hungry. The problem is that he can't swallow these red blood-stained meat slices. In the quiet dawn, a pair of interesting eyes looked at the little thing biting and dragging a plate of meat slices, unsure of what he was going to do. Kitchen. When a flame lit up in the kitchen, the old slave who was secretly peeping was stunned for a long time. He quietly sneaked into the kitchen roof, gently pushed open a red tile, and looked towards the kitchen. The pitch-black pupils twitched violently, and the old slave, who was accustomed to big winds and waves, rubbed his eyes vigorously, looking like a ghost. Under the kitchen, I saw that little thing constantly wandering among various seasonings. He seems to be a bit unfamiliar with these seasonings, constantly sniffing around with his nose, and sometimes even reaching out his small paws to pull out some of them and put them into his mouth. Not long after, the pot heated up and the little thing poured some oil into it. After waiting for a while, he poured the meat slices from the plate and, oh my goodness, this little thing can still handle a spoon. That scene was too eerie, and the old slave's heart was pounding with fear, only feeling like he was dreaming. On the big pot, Jiang Chen, who was struggling to stir-fry the meat, didn't notice a pair of trembling eyes on the roof. He only wanted to make a delicious dish. At the time of Kyushu, Jiang Chen was the son of a chef before entering the Taixu Sword Sect. Influenced by this, he naturally cooked some simple meals. Even when he reached the realm of Pigu, he would occasionally make some good things to reward his internal organs. The fragrance of meat wafted into the roof, causing waves of surprise to peek at the old slave. Not long after, a plate of sliced meat was stir-fried. After Jiang Chen pulled them into the dishes, he couldn't wait to devour them in large gulps. He is really starving. The taste is a bit bad. Oh, my little paws are not sharp enough to grab the spoon tightly. Having eaten almost, Jiang Chen jumped off the table and returned to the room satisfied. Not long after he left, the old servant on the roof sneaked into the kitchen again, looking at the dishes on the table. He carefully picked up some residual meat foam and sent it into his mouth. After a moment of hesitation, the old slave muttered to himself, "I've put too much salt, but this little thing's intelligence can be considered a monster among beasts. Stir-fry, even the adult hidden deep in the palace didn't know it when he was young, right?" During the conversation, the old slave hurriedly left Ziyue Palace and rushed towards Longyue Palace. Longyue Palace. Qin Mingzheng had already woken up and was sitting in front of the coffee table drinking morning tea to refresh himself. When he saw the hurried old slave, he couldn't help but ask, "Are you back so soon?" "Lord, demon, that little thing is really a demon." Upon hearing these words, Qin Mingzheng suddenly raised his eyebrows and became interested, saying, "Oh, it seems that something interesting has happened. Let's hear it." "Lord," when the old servant saw the little thing summoned by the 9th princess, surprisingly, he even cooked a plate of slightly salty cooked meat. Puff. The mighty Qin Mingzheng thought he was mentally prepared, but when he heard the old slave say these words, he still couldn't help but burst out with a breath of fragrant tea. Fried meat. Little white tiger. Qin Mingzheng could not imagine that scene no matter what. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Key Cultivation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Key Cultivation. At dawn, Jiang Chen woke up again. The sword solution that comes at the cost of lifespan has indeed made him exceptionally weak. He doesn't want to take things like the essence and blood pill at all. Naturally, he needs to think of other ways to restore himself. The Taixu Sword Sect has many cultivation methods that solidify the foundation and cultivate the essence, but the problem is that those methods have a prerequisite, which is the original life sword tool. For this destined sword weapon, it not only requires the sword owner to have a certain level of cultivation, but also requires materials for refining the sword. In short, for the current Jiang Chen, most of the cultivation methods of the Taixu Sword Sect are not something he can unleash. So how should we restore the lost essence? Many demonic martial arts naturally came to mind in Jiang Chen's mind. No one knows how many demon clan techniques Jiang Chen has learned during his hundreds of years of slaying demons and eliminating demons. Jiang Chen, this is not Jojo, and you are no longer a former disciple of the Sword Sect. What are you still doing? After his mind and thoughts were fully understood, Jiang Chen immediately focused his thoughts on a demon clan technique called De Ri Yao Shi. This cultivation technique was obtained by Jiang Chen in a secret location deep in the East Sea of Kyushu. Many clues tell him that this cultivation technique is highly likely to have been passed down to the legendary ancient bird, the three-legged golden crow. The reason for choosing this great sun demon body is not only because it has a long history of inheritance and is obviously not a weak dharma, but also because it has no evil energy. With the great sun washing itself, its magnificent and majestic spirit is purer than many human martial arts. In addition, the subsequent refining of this life sword also requires extraordinary flames. After all, this is not the Taixu Sword Sect, there are specialized sword craftsmen who need to do it themselves. In the early morning, the golden sun slowly rose to the east, and countless rays of light, like golden flying arrows, pierced through many clouds and fell into the earth, awakening the world. In the morning sun, the little white tiger struggled to climb onto the roof and then curled up in one place. The oldest way of practice comes from breathing, and every ancient practice begins with breathing that contains inexplicable rhythms. This is also why in all ancient texts, the earliest practice of practitioners is generally referred to as the technique of breathing. The primitive technique of breathing split into many schools, which gave rise to their respective school names, countless techniques, and so on. Jiang Chen uses a divine breathing technique to sense the great sun's true power floating between heaven and earth. Jiang Chen has long been proficient in the way of cultivation. Although it is his first time practicing the method of the demon clan, all the ways of cultivation have commonalities. Therefore, he quickly found the key and immersed himself in the divine cultivation. At that time, many people in the palace looked up at the big sun to the east and frowned secretly. It's so hot today. Yeah, it's almost early autumn now. How could it be so hot, like summer? Do you feel that today's big day is a bit different? Your eyes are blurred, how could Jinyang Hengu be different like this? Ziyue Palace. The little white tiger curled up on the roof was shrouded in mystery, with countless red and golden flames flowing around it. Occasionally, they will turn into characters that are just words, wonderful and indescribable. Jiang Chen knows the meaning of these words. They represent the source text of the great sun's true power. If he can comprehend them, he can create a spell, and when the spell is activated, it can activate the sun's true power. There are countless original texts in heaven and earth, and this is also the origin of the school of spells. Immersed in his cultivation, Jiang Chen felt a warm sensation all over his body. The true power of the sun, floating between heaven and earth, gradually seeped into his body, transforming his muscles and body. Perhaps most people only feel that today's morning sun is exceptionally bright and the temperature is quite high, and there are very few who can understand the reasons, but it is not without them. For example, old things hidden deep in the palace. Outside the Ziyue Palace, a passing servant suddenly stopped in his tracks. After a short while, his temperament changed greatly, and a faint aura of a great demon emanated from him. His eyeballs immediately turned golden. He looked up at the Moon Palace and stepped in with his feet raised. In the garden, he rose from the ground, as if there was an invisible staircase in the air, helping him soar upwards. He stood tall in the void, gazing at the little white tiger on the roof surrounded by the true power of the sun. Feeling an inexplicable gaze, Jiang Chen woke up from his cultivation and stood up, staring at the guy in front of him with a thick and demonic aura. Ow! Who is your excellency and what do you want? The servant raised a gentle smile upon hearing this and said, Oh, you little thing have extraordinary intelligence. Ow! You're a demon. Not bad, like you, I am also a demon, so you don't need to be so vigilant. If I want to hurt you, I have already taken action. Ouch! So what do you really want to do? Hee, I just want to take a look at you, the younger generation. You're very good, maybe you have the opportunity to replace me and become the spirit beast of the Xianyue kingdom. Jiang Chen couldn't understand what the other person was saying. Junior, I don't think you have any extraordinary bloodline. Why were you born with such a powerful cultivation method? Jiang Chen was once again vigilant, worried that the other party might try to steal his own martial arts and attack him. Hee, it's just that. As an outsider, it seems a bit sinister when I ask about this matter. Since you're new here, many things are unfamiliar to you. I'll give you a small gift. After the words fell, the servant appeared in the air and a spiritual light flashed by. Before Jiang Chen could react, it sank and disappeared from the word king on his forehead. Immediately, Jiang Chen felt that he had a lot of knowledge about the world in his mind. Junior, I'm looking forward to your growth, After saying these words, the servant turned around and flew away from the Ziyue Palace, not knowing where he had gone. Jiang Chen glanced at the direction in which the other person had disappeared and pondered inwardly. Longyue Palace. Qin Mingzheng, who was having breakfast, suddenly withdrew from drinking and then stood up to bow to a servant who had entered the hall, saying, I, Mingzheng, pay my respects to Lord Ling. Well, Mingzheng, I came here to remind you of one thing. Qin Mingzheng said seriously, Ling Gong, please speak up. I just met a little white tiger, whose summoning monster is it? Upon hearing this, Qin Mingzheng's eyes flashed with a gleam of light. He secretly thought that the little white tiger was truly extraordinary and could even attract the attention of the Duke of Zhenghua. Hui Linggong, that was summoned by my ninth daughter Qin Ziyue. Well, we will focus on cultivating them in the future. Key cultivation. Linggong. Qin Mingzheng was about to speak when he realized that Linggong had already disappeared. Qin Mingzheng took a few steps back and forth before suddenly shouting at the door, someone, report to the 3 palaces. Tonight, I will hold a family banquet to prepare the princes and princesses in advance. Oh, by the way, I will send someone to deliver a message to the Lord of the East China Sea, informing him that Princess Jiu will not marry anymore. If he is willing, he can marry a different princess. If he is not willing, it will be fine. Lord, if you do this, the Lord of the East China Sea will not be happy. Qin Mingzheng snorted coldly, what does he have to do with me if he's unhappy? If it weren't for his father's old relationship with the old lord of Donghai, how could our 2 countries have such a marriage alliance? Yes, I will send someone to deliver the message. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. The same origin in the world, Little Black, Little Yellow, and Little Eagle. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. The same origin in the world, Little Black, Little Yellow, and Little Eagle. Jiang Chen continued to lie on the roof, seemingly closed his eyes and recuperating, but in reality, he was digesting some basic knowledge about the world. As a cultivator, Jiang Chen is naturally most concerned about the cultivation system of this world. Overall, the cultivation system of this world gives Jiang Chen a sense of familiarity, which is very similar to the cultivation system of Kyushu. The cultivation realm of Kyushu world ranges from low to high, including innate, Pifu, Jindan, Jiuqiao, Lingying, Huashen, and Tianren. The sword cultivation of Taixu Sword Sect is slightly different from it, but overall, it is almost the same. The cultivation realms in this world range from low to high, including Zhou Tian, Kai Yuan, Jia Dan, pregnant orifices, Yuan Tai, Chua Shen, and Tian Ren. Innate is equal to Zhou Tian, and the opening of the mansion is the opening of the Yuan. The essence of the realm doesn't seem much different, but its names are not entirely the same. In addition, there are many cultivation schools in this world compared to Kyushu. For example, the summoning technique practiced by Qin Ziyue and others, during the Kyushu period, Jiang Chen only knew the technique of inviting gods and had never heard of the summoning technique. With a deeper understanding, Jiang Chen discovered that although there are many schools of thought in this world, there is a feeling of being leaderless. All schools of thought are growing like weeds, without the existence of Taoism and Buddhism similar to those in Kyushu. As a sword cultivator, Jiang Chen is also very curious about the existence of sword cultivators in this world. The answer is vague, but it seems to exist. Perhaps the old demon was unaware of Jianxiu's existence, but he had heard of a name called Jiandao Holy Land, called Tianjian Gate. I have the opportunity to visit the Holy Land of Swordsmanship. Jiang Chen was both curious and excited. Jiang Chen discovered another difference from Kyushu, which is that the demon tribes in this world seem to have no concept of transformation at all. The demon race seems to have disdain for the physical form of the human race and does not want to transform into that weak posture. Even in special circumstances where it is necessary to appear in human form, basic transformation techniques are used. Through understanding the knowledge about this world in his mind, Jiang Chen suddenly recalled a sentence he had heard in Kyushu. All worlds share the same origin. Both Taoist scriptures and Buddhist sayings mention the concept of the same origin in all realms, which clarifies that in the oldest times, chaos was the only world, and when chaos shattered, it transformed into many worlds of different sizes. Little white, little white, little white. Ow. Girl, Jiang is here. Upon hearing the sound, Qin Ziyue looked up and saw a small tiger head peeking out from the eaves, staring blankly at her. Father has set up a family banquet, are you going with me? Eating. Jiang Chen instinctively shook his head and said, Ah. Not going. Then don't run around alone in the Ziyue palace. Qin Ziyue was stunned after saying these words, staring blankly at little white tiger. She secretly thought that the other party could completely understand her words, and shook her head to express her unwillingness to go with her. Although monster beasts are much smarter than ordinary beasts, they are just like humans. They are ignorant in childhood, and can only understand everything in adulthood, and they also need to cultivate successfully. The little white tiger in front of him is like a child of the human race, but he is already intelligent enough to communicate with himself. Looking at the pair of black and white tiger eyes above her head, Qin Ziyue suddenly became infuriated. Xiao He, Xiao Huang, Xiao Ying, come out. Little black, little yellow, little eagle. Upon hearing these three names, Jiang Chen couldn't help but sigh and thought to himself that this girl probably didn't have much ink in her belly, so no wonder she called herself a little white. In mid-air, a small black snake, a small milk dog, and a small falcon appeared out of thin air in no particular order. Xiaohe, Xiao Huang, Xiao Ying, take a look at Xiao Bai, and then take a look at the three of you. You're all dumbfounded, hey. The little falcon flapped its wings and circled above Qin Ziyue's head, saying, cry. Wong wong wong. The little yellow dog pounced at Qin Ziyue's feet and excitedly licked her calf. As for the one zhang long black snake, it appeared much more calm, coiled up, spitting out snake letters, and its breath was chilly. Xiao Bai, you can play with the three of them to avoid loneliness. After speaking, Qin Ziyue lightly kicked the little yellow dog on her leg and quickly left. As she was about to leave, she shook her head in frustration, but was thinking about how to cultivate these four little things. Summoning monsters also requires the summoner to do their best to cultivate them. Perhaps some people may ask, why do summoners still need to cultivate their own monsters? Why are they so weak? The answer is simple, because summoners like Qin Ziyue are very weak. All things in heaven and earth cannot do without the word balance. Can a weak person summon powerful monsters? Aren't you afraid of monsters turning against the master? So, the strength of summoning monsters is directly proportional to the strength of the summoner themselves. Assuming Qin Ziyue becomes very powerful in the future, at that time, if she were to use the summoning technique, perhaps she could summon a big guy. Of course, according to the passed-down rules, cultivators who summon one path can only summon 7 demon beasts in their lifetime. To sign a contract that has been passed down from ancient times, it requires a lot of materials. Qin Ziyue, backed by the Xianyu royal family, can summon 4 demon beasts continuously for several years. Ordinary people can summon 3 or 4 beasts from the sky, and their financial resources are exhausted. Don't forget, cultivating monsters also requires a lot of resources. So for most ordinary summoners, they basically focus on cultivating 1 to 2 summoning monsters. Wong wong wong. Fourth. After Qin Ziyue left, the little yellow dog quickly rushed to the roof and ran to Jiang Chen, barking non-stop. It kept bouncing around in place, looking very excited. Cry, cry. Fourth. The little falcon also followed the little yellow dog, flapping its wings. Jiang Chen. Ow. Go away. The little yellow dog seemed to have not heard Jiang Chen's words and continued barking incessantly, woo woof woof. Hide and seek, old four, hide and seek. Crying. I can hide in the clouds, amazing. Haha. Jiang Chen. Ow. I'm not playing, you two go away. Unfortunately, the two little things seemed to have completely ignored Jiang Chen's words. Wong wong wong. Old San and I hid first. If we can't find me, we'll have to eat my poop. Cry. And mine, I'll pull it down from the clouds. Ha ha ha. At this moment, the little yellow dog turned its head and called out to the little falcon, Wong wong wong, third, your stool is too thin, not delicious. Cry. Your one is not very good either. Listening to the amazing conversation between the two little ones, Jiang Chen's forehead seemed to have several black lines sliding down. Feeling impatient, he suddenly stood up and roared at the two of them, ow. Go away. The little yellow dog and the little falcon were startled by Jiang Chen's sudden roar. Just a little while later, the little yellow dog suddenly jumped onto the back of the little falcon, and both of them shouted vigorously towards Jiang Chen. Little falcon, little yellow dog. Wong 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 wong. Cry cry cry. Combining must kill skills. Qin Ziu's eagle dog. Immediately, both of them pounced on Jiang Chen, who was so angry that he didn't know which tendon was twitching and ended up wrestling with them. Oh, oh, oh. Woo, woof, woof. Cry, cry. In the shade of the ground, the little black snake looked at the three guys on the roof and shook its head, saying, hiss, there's another fool added. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Men must marry a good wife. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Men must marry a good wife. Yuan Mansion Hall. General Yuan Su sat on the large chair with a gloomy face. Last night, when Yuan Qinghuan, who was bleeding from 7 holes, was brought back by the 6th Prince Qin Zhua, he was truly startled. He thought that someone so bold would dare to harm his son so seriously. However, after further questioning, he almost ended this evil deed. As the Grand General of Xianyue State, Yuan Su can be said to have almost reached the peak of power in this area of Xianyue State. Over the years, he has become increasingly low-key, spending almost all his energy on cultivating and nurturing his 3-headed summoning beasts, gradually fading out of people's sight. The saying goes that accompanying a ruler is like accompanying a tiger. If Yuan Su continues to strengthen his influence, it may lead to the disaster of annihilation. A person with the ability to rebel is an existence that no monarch can tolerate. The ruler doesn't care if you have any rebellious intentions, he only cares if you have the strength. I live like walking on thin ice every day, and this villain is good enough to sneak into the palace and want to humiliate Princess Jiu. If Qin Mingzheng uses this as an excuse to commit a serious crime, Yuan Su cannot refute it with a single word. Out of anger, Yuan Su pointed to the face of the 6th Prince Qin Zhua on the spot and scolded for a while, telling him not to be with Yuan Qinghuan again in the future. Where wouldn't Yuan Su not know Qin Zhua's plan? Isn't it that he wants to use his own strength to compete for the position of the country's leader for him? Just as Yuan Su was thinking about how to enter the palace to apologize to Qin Mingzheng, a woman ran in crying and pleading. Master, you must make up your own mind for Huaner this time. The doctor said that Huaner suffered a backlash due to the death of the summoning beast, and she needs to cultivate for at least 2 to 3 years to fully recover. Sigh, Master, Huaner has suffered a lot. Pop. Yuan Su slammed the table and pointed at the woman's nose, cursing, cry your butt. Your kind mother has suffered so much, and Cheng Huan will suffer from this. Your contribution as a mother is indispensable. He sneaked into the palace with the intention of insulting the 9th princess. He ate a few leopard gall and dared to do such a thing. Now he has only been cultivating at home for 2 or 3 years, which is very good. The woman didn't expect Yuan Su's reaction to be so intense. She shouted angrily at her with a black face, completely ignoring the servants around her, clearly feeling angry. However, the woman in front of her was not an ordinary woman. Her family background was equally prominent, and she had a younger sister who was highly favored by Qin Mingzheng as a queen. Either angry and embarrassed, or angry and resentful towards Yuan Qinghuan for being hurt like this, the woman also raised her voice and shouted, "Yuan Su, what did you say? How did my son deserve it? Even if he wanted to do something to Princess Nine, what was the result? Was it successful? No, but Huaner bled from her 7 holes and suffered a heavy blow to her spirit. It's clear who made the bigger mistake." Yuan Su never expected his wife to say such words, her eyes wide open and her anger growing stronger. "Su Baiwei, you are also a lady from a prestigious family, and your father is also a high-ranking official of the dynasty. How could you say such foolish things? That is the 9th princess, the daughter of the Lord." Before Yuan Su could finish speaking, his wife sneered and said, "Don't think I don't know anything about the palace until I leave home. Princess Qin Ziyue, the 9th princess, has summoned a summoning beast with low potential 4 times in a row. Now she has lost the favor of the Lord and will soon be used as a marriage. What is there to be afraid of such a princess? Let's not say that my son didn't do anything to her. Even if something really happens, will our Yuan family still be afraid of her?" Yuan Su's whole body trembled with anger, and he grabbed the teacup in his hand and threw it at the woman's feet. Bang bang. In the shattered voice, he roared like a raging lion, "Su Baiwei, how dare you have such a rebellious idea? Princess Jiu is Princess Jiu. Even if she is no longer favored, her body still flows with the blood of the Qin family. The Lord may not spoil her and treat her as a marriage item, but we cannot. This is the most basic way of being a ruler and subject. Once it is crossed, it will be a disaster. Madam. So my son just wasted money like this. I said, it would be great if that troublemaker didn't die." Yuan Su gritted his teeth and shouted angrily. Madam frowned and said, "As a great general, can't you join her in one book and make the Lord blame her?" "I'm joining your ancestors." Yuan Su was so angry at the foolish idea of this foolish woman that his words became even more intense. "Princess Rinjiu didn't come to join me, so I'm grateful. Do you still want to join others? You're getting old, isn't your brain also not working well? Madam. Have you, as a father, considered your own son? He's lying in bed now and still counting on you to stand up for him. If he hears your words, he won't be cold-hearted." Cold-hearted. Upon hearing this, Yuan Su looked left and right, then suddenly walked to the weapon rack on the right, grabbed a large gun, and rushed to Yuan Qinghuan's room. "Master, what are you doing?" Madam's face changed in shock and she stood in front of Yuan Su. "What are you doing?" "I'm going to shoot this scoundrel to death and make him feel what it means to be cold-hearted. You expect me to take the lead in this kind of thing, so foolish. What are you doing in this world?" Upon hearing these words, Madame became even more frightened, afraid that Yuan Suzhen, who was in a fit of anger, would make any extreme moves. She hurriedly said, "Wrong, wrong, sir, we were wrong. Qinghuan is resting, so please don't disturb him." Yuan Su suddenly pushed his wife away, took a deep breath, and shouted, "From today on, let that scoundrel imprison me in the mansion for a year. If you dare to step out of the mansion, I will break his leg. Yes, whatever the master says, Qinghuan will listen. He will listen." Yuan Mansion, the luxurious room of Yuan Qinghuan. "Mother, is that what Dad really said? There can still be a vacation. Your father was so angry with you this time, so you can rest assured and don't go out if you have nothing to do." Yuan Qinghuan clenched his fist and smashed the bed fiercely. As a result, there was nothing wrong with the bed, but his blood and energy churned, giving him a feeling of wanting to vomit blood. "Huaner, what are you doing? The doctor said you need to take good care of yourself and don't get angry or hurt yourself. Yuan Qinghuan's eyes were bloodshot, and she roared softly, Mother, how can I not be hurt? Qin Ziyue killed my python and leopard, which I have been raising for 3 years, causing me a heavy blow to my spirit. I need to cultivate myself for 3 years. I have to swallow this loss, Mother, this breath is really hard for the child to swallow. You have to make decisions for the child. Seeing his mother's hesitant expression, Yuan Qinghuan added another spark and said, Mother, you have heard what the doctor said just now. I have been severely injured this time, which will have an impact on my future cultivation. It is highly likely that my cultivation path will be ruined by Qin Ziyue. Upon hearing these words, his mother's resentment was once again stirred up, and she gritted her teeth and said, Princess Jiu has indeed gone too far this time. Huaner, you are certainly wrong, but it has not caused a big disaster. Why did she take such a heavy hand? As a mother, I must fight back for you. I will send a message to my younger sister in the palace, asking her to give Princess Jiu a good reference in front of the Lord. Upon hearing this, Yuan Qinghuan smiled and said, My mother still loves me the most. With my aunt taking action, Qin Ziyue must be unable to bear it. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Compared to the mountains and rivers, what are women? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Compared to the mountains and rivers, what are women? Imperial Palace, Jingxiu Palace. Within the palace, there is a scenic view every 10 steps, while the Jingxiu Palace is a part of the scenery. Exquisite pavilions are connected one by one, and a narrow and winding corridor showcases the painstaking efforts of craftsmen. The garden is full of various precious flowers, and the pond is filled with colorful koi. All of this highlights the status of the people in this palace. She is Su Qianying, the most favored and powerful woman in the palace besides the queen. The vast palace is home to more than 100 servants and servants. The news of the main family banquet held by the country had already been spread throughout the 3 palaces by the servants, to the point where the imperial supervisor in charge of preparing the luxurious attire suddenly became busy. In Jingxiu Palace, Su Qianying sat upright in front of the mirror, surrounded by more than 20 maids preparing for her to dominate the harem at the family banquet tonight. Some people choose luxurious clothes, some screen jewelry, some paint makeup, and some weave hairstyles for them. Madam, you are really radiant and extremely beautiful today, said the servant. This is not a compliment. Su Qianying is indeed extremely beautiful, otherwise she would not have been favored by the Lord alone. Hearing the words, Su Qianying, like a proud white swan, raised her face slightly, looked at herself in the mirror and said with a light smile, It's rare for sisters to get together, so it's natural to pick up the spirits, hee. The flowers in the garden are all ashamed of Empress Dowager's appearance. At tonight's family banquet, Empress Dowager will surely shine brightly. I assure you that tonight, the lord of the country will definitely have Empress Dowager serve you in bed. You have a sweet mouth. Su Qianying glanced at the other person, her heart and face filled with uncontrollable joy. At this moment, a servant walked in and said to Su Qianying, Madam Yuan has sent someone to deliver a letter. Sister's letter. Bring it. Su Baiwei and Su Qianying are close sisters. They have had a good relationship since childhood. Hearing that it was her letter, Su Qianying immediately asked the servants to stop, open the envelope and read it carefully. After a moment, Su Qianying put down the envelope and her face became somewhat unhappy. Princess Jiu is really reckless. She killed the summoned monster of my own nephew, and her spirit was severely damaged. Her future cultivation will be affected. Several close maids around them couldn't help but ask, Madam, why did Princess Jiu take such a heavy hand on Master Yuan? It said that Cheng Huan teased her a few times. It's a bit excessive to flirt with Princess Jiu for just a few words. So this matter must not be spread. The more it is spread, the more crooked it becomes, because everyone has their own likes and dislikes, and the words spoken will instinctively appear biased. Yuan Qinghuan was not just teasing Qin Ziyue, but also trying to forcibly humiliate her. A princess who is about to be used as a matchmaker dares to be so bold. Humph, tonight at the family banquet, my consort must seek justice for Qinghuan. The sunset is like blood, and the day is far away. Imperial Palace, Tianluan Palace. Qin Ziyue arrived in front of the Tianluan Hall holding the soft-haired little white tiger. They were all descendants of the imperial family, each dressed in luxurious clothing and possessing an extraordinary temperament. Jiang Chen could feel that although the extremely beautiful woman holding her was shining like a bright moon in this group of people, she was particularly nervous. Her indifferent appearance was just a means for her to conceal her inner anxiety. Her inferior qualifications made her feel a bit insecure. The more brightly lit, the more magnificent, and the more crowded the crowd was, the more uncomfortable she became. The mysterious contract made Jiang Chen empathize and feel somewhat pitiful towards his own mistress. Xiao Bai, it's fortunate to have you with me. Qin Ziyue rubbed Jiang Chen's little head fiercely with her face. Ah, if you hadn't brought two fools, Jiang wouldn't have come with you. Jiang Chen thought of Qin Ziyue's eagle dog, and his grape-like tiger eyes showed deep helplessness. We need to find a way to make those two fools smarter, otherwise we'll be really annoyed. Jiang Chen thought silently. Taking a deep breath, Qin Ziyue hugged the little white tiger and stepped into this brightly lit hall. There were many concubines of Qin Mingzheng, and naturally, there were also many descendants, nearly 100 of them, half of whom were little brats who didn't know the spring and autumn. In the main hall, many small tables are neatly arranged. Qin Ziyue looked around and habitually walked towards the farthest corner, sitting quietly. In this situation, everyone seemed to want to squeeze closer to the Lord, which gave Qin Ziyue a rare peace. Xiao Bai, you like to eat fruits. Qin Ziyue noticed that Xiao Bai was picking at the grapes on the table, as if she had discovered a new continent. Grapes need to be peeled before they can be eaten. Here, I'll peel a few for you. Ow. Jiang can peel it himself, don't bother the girl anymore. This is also very delicious. Do you want to eat it? Qin Ziyue pushed all the fruits on the table to Jiang Chen, looking at his clumsy and cute appearance with a smile. The Lord has arrived. Wearing a crown and a golden robe, Qin Mingzheng stepped into the Tianluan Hall surrounded by several servants. As soon as he entered the hall, he observed from side to side, trying to find where Qin Ziyue was, or more precisely, to see her little white tiger. Suddenly, he saw Qin Ziyue in the corner, and just as he was about to call out, a pitiful cry suddenly sounded. Lord of the nation, Qin Mingzheng looked for a voice and saw Su Qianying rushing out. Lord, you must make decisions for my poor nephew, my concubine. Nephew. Yuan Qinghuan. Qin Mingzheng remained calm and smiled, holding on to Su Qianying's slender willow waist. He pretended to be curious and said, Empress AI, isn't your nephew Yuan Qinghuan, the son of General Yuan? What's wrong with him? Su Qianying said with a sorrowful and indignant expression, Lord, Qinghuan has been attacked and killed by someone recently due to summoning beasts, and his spirit has been severely damaged. He is still lying in bed to cultivate. The doctor said that his future path of cultivation will be affected. Oh, who is so bold as to strike such a fierce hand at General Yuan's only son? Qin Mingzheng's eyes flickered inexplicably. That ruthless person is Princess Qin Ziyue. With this statement, Qin Ziyue in the corner once again became the focus of everyone's attention, with many eyes mixed with schadenfreude falling on her. That's the little white tiger that Lingdong values. That's the little white tiger who knows how to stir-fry meat. Qin Mingzheng's gaze instantly fell on Jiang Chen, his eyes filled with excitement. Lord, you must make the decision for my concubine's nephew and punish the 9th princess severely. Su Qianying gave Qin Ziyue a dissatisfied glance, completely unaware that she was on the brink of disaster. Qin Mingzheng said, Ziyue, come here. Yes. Qin Ziyue tightly hugged the little white tiger and walked step by step to Qin Mingjing amidst the sympathetic and mocking gazes of everyone. Ziyue, what Qianying said is true. No. Qin Ziyue wanted to refute, but then something came to her mind. She lowered her head and said in distress, my daughter was wrong. I am willing to be punished. Su Qianying is the most beloved concubine of Qin Mingjing, while Qin Ziyue is just a daughter who has lost her king's favor and will soon marry into Donghai Kingdom. After understanding this relationship, Qin Ziyue didn't want to argue anything anymore. Anyway, it's useless to say anything. Lord, you see, she has admitted it herself, but I didn't say anything nonsense. Su Qianying leaned against Qin Mingjing's arms and sneered at the extremely beautiful princess in front of her, which made her jealous. At this moment, Qin Mingjing looked up and shouted to Qin Zhuo, come here. The smile at the corner of his mouth suddenly narrowed, and Qin Zhuo quickly stepped forward and said, Father. Qin Zhuo, can you tell me why Yuan Qinghuan was severely injured? Qin Zhuo looked up in surprise and said, Father, the child doesn't know. Qin Zhuo, I will only give you one chance to speak. You must think carefully before speaking. Watching Qin Mingjing's increasingly fierce gaze, Qin Zhuo realized something and broke out in a cold sweat. After a moment of hesitation, he made a decision and knelt down suddenly. Father, it was Yuan Qinghuan who coveted Jiumei's body and sneaked into the Ziyue palace at night, intending to do something against her. Jiumei resisted and accidentally injured him. Obviously, Qin Zhuo covered all of this pot on Yuan Qinghuan's head. Ai Fei, have you heard clearly? It was your nephew who infiltrated the Ziyue palace, intending to harm my daughter. Ah, is that so? Lord, my concubine is wrong. Su Qianying's face was awkward. She didn't expect the situation to turn out like this. Of course, it was just awkward. She didn't think she would be punished by Qin Mingjing for it, after all, the other party loved her so much. However, this time Su Qianying was wrong, completely wrong. Ai Fei, if you are wrong, you will be punished, and you are no exception. Qin Mingjing patted the other person's fragrant shoulder with a gentle tone. Su Qianying angrily said, Damn it, how does the Lord want to punish my concubine? Can I send you to the Cold Moon Palace? Cold Moon Palace, commonly known as Cold Palace. Su Qianying was taken aback for a moment, then laughed and said, Lord, you are good or bad? You will scare my concubines. Scare. Qin Mingjing's eyes flashed with a hint of resentment, and then leaned in his ear and said, Su Qianying, you are my pillow, but you don't even know my thoughts. Compared to the world, what is a woman? After finishing speaking in his ear, Qin Mingjing pushed Su Qianying away and shouted, Someone, send Empress Su into the Cold Moon Palace. The entire Tianluan temple suddenly fell into a state of silence, and their thoughts were the same as Su Qianying's before. They thought that even if she made a mistake and wronged Qin Ziyue, she would not be punished. Who would let the Lord dote on her so much? The fact is, they all got it wrong. This woman, who was favored by the king alone, not only received punishment, but also was much more serious than expected, as she was directly sent to the Cold Moon Palace. For any concubine, entering the Cold Moon Palace is no different from being sentenced to death. Lord! I'm wrong. Lord, please spare me. Lord! A generation of favored concubines were rudely dragged out of the Tianluan Hall by the guards. At this moment, Qin Mingjing smiled and kindly took Qin Ziyue's arm, saying, Ziyue, come and sit next to me. I haven't talked to you for a while. Everyone was once again surprised, looking at Qin Ziyue, who was at a loss, only feeling her head foggy. What did Qin Ziyue do to regain the recognition of the Lord? End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Being sealed for appearance. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Being sealed for appearance. Tianluan Temple. Qin Ziyue followed Qin Mingjing to the center of the hall in a daze. Many princesses, princes, and princesses looked at each other face to face, and it was hard to imagine how Qin Ziyue suddenly became so likable. Looking at Qin Ziyue's expression, she seemed to be unable to understand the reason behind it. Of course, no matter what, everyone's gaze towards Qin Ziyue had changed. Many ambitious princes quietly instructed the servant beside them, who took a deep look at Qin Ziyue sitting next to the lord and quickly left. Ziyu, is this the summoning beast you summoned for the 4th time? TSK, not bad, not bad. Qin Mingjing carefully observed Jiang Chen and exclaimed incessantly. Upon hearing these words, Qin Ziyue was very puzzled and hesitated for a moment before saying, Father, the demon mirror said that his potential is inferior to that of Huang Jia, which is very poor. The demon mirror is not without looking away. Furthermore, Linggong personally witnessed this little guy and emphasized his cultivation. Isn't that enough to explain anything? Qin Mingjing smiled gently at Qin Ziyue and said, Ziyue, it's not easy for me to see this little white tiger as my father. You must not underestimate it. You must cultivate it with care, just speak up if you lack anything, and my father will fully support you. Full support. Qin Ziyue lowered her head and glanced at the little thing yawning in her arms, lost in thought. She was not a fool, and naturally she could see that Qin Mingjing seemed to value the little white tiger he summoned. There is a saying that goes, mother relies on her son for wealth. In this Xianyue kingdom, this sentence needs to be changed. It is called, people rely on beasts for value. Even the most despicable person, if they can summon summoning beasts with great potential, they will climb to the green clouds and enter and exit the nobility. Thinking about the python and leopard that he killed Yuan Chenghuan that night, as well as the words of the old physician, Qin Ziyue finally confirmed that this little thing, which was designated as the 1st grade of Huang Jia by the demon mirror, was not simple. Thinking of this, Qin Ziyue suddenly became a little excited, feeling that her path of cultivation had once again become bright. Ziyu, Longshan Academy has started recruiting students from the 18 kingdoms again. My father plans to let you go, are you willing? Upon hearing these words, Qin Ziyue's eyes slightly opened and she was stunned for a while before stumbling and saying, Father. Emperor, Longshan Academy has always been the best imperial family heirs to go to. Can I, be? Qin Mingjing glanced at the drowsy little thing in his arms and chuckled, of course, you can go. Qin Ziyue took a deep breath and said, but it's up to her father. That's great. As he spoke, Qin Mingjing nodded at the old slave beside him, who understood and immediately took a few steps forward. The vast palace slowly quieted down, only because the old servant who served Qin Mingjing closely was slowly unfolding the imperial edict in his hand. Carrying the national fortune of heaven and earth, the lord of the country personally issued an edict. Today, Princess Qin Ziyue is born with unparalleled beauty and beauty, so she is bestowed the title of Divine Moon, and is honored with the title of Prince. As soon as this royal decree was issued, countless people in the Tianluan Hall sprinkled drinks on the table, their faces glazed over. Title: Divine Moon. Prince Xianyue. In the history of the Xianyue kingdom, there were less than 100 people who were granted titles. Those with different surnames were granted titles, which became known as kings with different surnames. Those of the imperial family were granted titles, which became known as princes. In this world of cultivation, if women have exceptional talents, they can still suppress men. Therefore, there are also some women who have been granted titles in the history of Xianyue kingdom. The question is, those women who have been granted titles have all achieved meritorious deeds or advanced cultivation, while Qin Ziyue has been granted titles due to her unparalleled natural beauty and beauty. This is too childish. Qin Mingjing glanced at the whispering children and shouted loudly, don't you have any objections to my resolution? Everyone hurriedly said they dare not. Since I dare not, why don't I get up and salute Prince Xianyue? As soon as these words were spoken, all the princes, princesses, and even the princesses stood up and bowed to Qin Ziyue, shouting, see Prince Xianyue. The prince of Xianyue Kingdom holds a high status, and everyone except for the lord and crown prince must bow when they see him. Qin Ziyue seemed to have not yet regained her senses from being sealed, and without realizing her mistake, she looked at the crowd and hurriedly asked them to wave their gifts. Qin Mingjing, standing beside him, saw the dissatisfaction in the eyes of many people and snorted coldly in his heart. Just a prince, there are many in the Xianyue dynasty. Since the founding of the Xianyue Kingdom, there has only been one giant demon in the country. The vitality of demon beasts is strong, which is even more evident for demons with advanced cultivation. The Xianyue Kingdom has been established for 5,700 years and still stands, partly due to the founding giant demon sitting in the palace. It is the summoning monster of the founding king of Xianyue Kingdom. After the death of its owner, it voluntarily stayed in Xianyue Kingdom to protect its foundation for thousands of miles. Now, its limit is approaching and it urgently needs a new giant demon to replace its position and intimidate surrounding forces. A long time ago, the elderly of the dynasty, including Qin Mingjing, presented their proud summoning beasts to the Lingong of Jingguo for him to choose the next successor, but none of them caught the eye of the Lingong. Now, Duke Ling of Jingguo values the little white tiger summoned by Qin Ziyue, as if he sees it as his successor. Naturally, as his summoner, Qin Ziyue's position also became extremely important. Qin Mingjing stood up and said, "The founding of Longshan Academy selected disciples and removed Qin Zhuo's quota, changing it to Ziyu." What? Upon hearing this resolution, Qin Zhuo, who thought he had escaped, almost fainted. "Qin Zhuo, do you have any objections?" "Yes, there is a big opinion." Qin Zhuo roared inwardly, but dared not show any hint on his face. "I have no objection, congratulations to Prince Xianyue." "That's great. Alright, the main task is over. Let's start." The old slave beside him immediately shouted at the top of his throat, "The family banquet is here, serving." General's mansion. Under the moonlight, Yuan Su glared fiercely and charged towards Yuan Qinghuan's yard, approaching the door. Listening to the conversation inside the room, he lifted it and kicked the entire door. Boom! The sudden loud noise startled Yuan Qinghuan and his mother Su Baiwei. Seeing that the visitor was Yuan Su, Su Baiwei was furious and stood up to scold him. Unexpectedly, the other party raised their hand and slapped her directly, but with great force, they turned her around in place without saying anything. Su Baiwei. Did you send a message to Empress Su to stand out for Qinghuan at the imperial family banquet? After receiving such a slap for no reason, Su Baiwei was also extremely angry. When he came to his senses, he angrily shouted, "Are you crazy, surnamed Yuan? Yes, if you don't stand up for Qinghuan, of course I have to think of other ways. Didn't I tell you to be more calm? What are you yelling at? You're a weak father, you've seen your son suffer, but I'm not a mother." Pop. Another heavy slap hit Su Baiwei's face, and Yuan Su, who was furious, roared, "You foolish woman, dare to talk back, you know. Su Fei, your own sister, you killed her." Upon hearing these words, Su Baiwei was taken aback for a moment and asked, "What's wrong with my sister?" "What's wrong?" "She was sent to the cold palace by the lord of the country." "Go to the cold palace." Su Baiwei was struck by lightning, stumbled a few steps, and sat down on the bed. After a while, she shook her head and shouted, "It's impossible. How could the Lord blame my sister for a princess who is about to marry? It's impossible. What about Princess Nine? She is now the prince of the divine moon and holds a high status. If you start to argue, your precious son will also be ruined." Prince Xianyue. On the bed, Yuan Qinghuan's face suddenly changed and he was extremely frightened. He quickly got off the bed and rushed to Yuan Su, shouting, "Dad, you want to save the child? Dad, Dad." End of this chapter.